at 10 o'clock. Next on BBC One, Going to Work looks at office jobs. That's in just over a minute.
This is Rathfriland, a quiet country town in Northern Ireland, about 30 miles from Belfast. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, and Aveen is setting off for work.
I live 34 miles away from Belfast, and I travel by car every day, and it takes me about 3/4 of an hour, but I have applied for a transfer because the travelling is very tiring.
Like many young people in Northern Ireland, Aveen grew up and went to school in the country. Unfortunately, many of the jobs are concentrated in the one large city, Belfast.
Hope so. I'd like to go to coach.
How did Aveen get on at school?
Well, I did my O-levels, I done 5 of them, and I only got to 1. And I left school after that there. I didn't like school very much.
So Aveen wanted to leave school and start work. But why this particular job?
My sister was working in the civil service, and she got the application forms, and at that time you could get into the civil service through an exam. So I did the exam, and I got the exam and done the interview and passed it.
Because there's so little work, Aveen realized that she had to take this job when it was offered, despite the fact that it meant an extra 2 hours a day traveling to and from work, and despite the fact that she much prefers the country to the noise and bustle of the city. Aveen works in a local unemployment benefit office. That's where people go to sign on. It's where they go to register for the dole. This part is simple.
Just sign there, please.
An unemployed person has to turn up regularly at the office and sign a piece of paper.
And sign another fortnight, okay?
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That's to say they haven't got a job. Most of the work goes on behind the scenes. And this is the sort of work we'll be looking at, organizing files and doing the paperwork rather than doing shorthand and typing. Aveen deals with 400 unemployed people. In between the signing on sessions, Aveen has to look after the files. Each file has to be complete and contain all the up-to-date information. It's fairly routine work, as Aveen knows well.
Well, it can be pretty boring. The routine work and in between not meeting the public is sort of boring. Hello, UV section.
The other part of Aveen's job is answering queries, usually by phone.
And what's the name? T. Clinton. Just hold on, please. Right.
People want to know why they haven't got their benefit, or why it's not as much as they expected. This is when the files really come into their own.
Yeah, so not be till next week. You're not get paid till next week, okay?
They should provide most of the answers.
Well, you need to come in and see them up in supplementary.
Aveen is able to give people the information they need.
Okay. Right, bye-bye.
And what does Aveen like about her job?
Well, I like the job because you're always meeting the public, and I like the people that I work with. And it's secure.
In another part of the same office, we met Fiona. She's been here for just 5 months. Indeed, she's only been doing her present job for a few weeks, so her memories of school are still fresh and vivid.
I got on quite well. I did O-levels and shorthand and typing and plenty of friends, and I hadn't really thought about leaving, you know, unless I had a job. Well, I didn't really know what else I wanted to do, and I thought it was the nearest to the qualifications that I had suited them the best.
What does Fiona's job involve?
We deal an awful lot with post coming in and post going out, and files and case papers which are recorded in and out so that we know where they are if anyone phones up and asks for them.
When you're new, all these forms and files must look the same.
Well, at first I found it very difficult, and I thought I'd never recognise them. But there's certain things, you know, that if you're not unsure of them, there's always somebody on hand that knows something about them.
And now, Fiona's found that there are other advantages in the job.
I've now started a first aid course. We trained to be a first aid. It lasts for 9 weeks, and I get a Wednesday afternoon off to go down to Tech. I would never have thought of going on a first aid course. You know, at school I would have said it's for somebody else, but I thought I may as well have a go, have a bash at something.
Many jobs have advantages you don't see at first. This building is Belfast City Hall. Office work in town halls is usually about helping to provide a service for local residents. Everything from emptying dustbins to looking after parks and gardens. Often, we're unaware of this sort of work until we need help. Help, for instance, with health hazards, in shops or in our own houses. Then, we would go to the Environmental Health Department.
Is this where you come about health matters?
Yes, it is. Can I help you?
Yes, well, see, I'm very worried about the family. There's a lot of water running down the walls and a lot of growth, and I think it's a hole in the roof.
Well, if you could just give me a few details, please. Could you give me your name and address?
Joe Anderson,
And your address?
40 Haven Road, Belfast 2.
Have you reported it to this department before?
No, I haven't. I didn't know where to come to.
And it's the roof that's leaking?
That's right, yes.
Well, I'll get the public health inspector to call out with you as soon as I can.
Well, that's great. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you now.
Liz is good at listening to people's problems, but that's only a small part of her job. Most of her time is spent in this office with colleagues like Linda. Together, Linda and Liz provide the clerical backup for the public health officers. How did Linda get into this sort of work?
When I left school, I didn't really know what, again, still I didn't know what to do. So I looked in the paper most nights to see what sort of things there were. And it was mostly office jobs. And I never really thought about clerical work before, you know. But although my mum and dad, you know, do clerical work, but I applied for the city council and I got in, and I've been here ever since.
And how did Liz get into this sort of work?
Well, actually, I had applied for another job with the Northern Ireland Civil Service at the same time. I took that job. I got that job first and stayed there 5 months, but I had to travel out of town for that, so I decided this one was better.
Obviously, the job involves a lot of paperwork. But what are the particular problems Linda has to deal with?
Well, we're dealing with complaints, and it's about housing, and it's people who rent their houses, and they would ring up if they have a problem, say with a leaking roof or spoutings or any sort of public health nuisance that there is, and we would take a note of it in our books and give it to the public health inspector, who will inspect the house, and then it was brought back. We write a public health notice out and it's sent to the agent.
A public health notice is a legally binding document.
We have to write the public health notices, and they're served on the agents personally by a notice server. You have to be very accurate because any mistake can cause a lot of trouble in the latter end. All the notices are written on a daily basis. They're usually written in the morning before 12 o'clock, so between the hours of 10 and 12 we have to write the required number, and it can vary. Some days we have up to 50, 60 notices to write. Other days it can be slack.
Hello, health. Drive.
And Linda's noticed that answering the phone all day has made a difference to her personally.
Oh yes, I have a lot more confidence, you know, since I came into the job, and you know, you can talk to people a lot easier. Yes, I understand. What's your name, please? Well, at the start, I thought it was very interesting because it was the first job I'd been into, and I suppose I didn't know what exactly to expect. But it is repetitive, there is, but I mean, I think in every job that there is everybody has a bit of routine in it. So I enjoy it. There's a good atmosphere in the office. It's friendly. I get on, you know, with everybody, and I get some satisfaction out of it.
There's no disguising the fact that most of the work is routine and does require a lot of patience. However, Liz and Linda do enjoy their work because they're helping the public. Of course, there's plenty of office work outside the civil service or local government. This is the general office of a large insurance company. It's a pretty busy place. The phones always seem to be ringing, and the staff are kept on the go most of the time. We came here to meet Carolyn and Shirley. She's the one on the phone. Most of their contact with the public is by phone.
6343.
Shirley made a slightly unusual choice. She didn't go straight into work, but first spent a year at tech college.
I felt just too young to start work at 16. I just wasn't ready for it at all. And tech gave me the stepping stone, if you like, between school and work, because they treated you more as an adult. You know, you weren't a child in school, and it helped me anyway, I found.
Good morning, personal department.
I never really thought of working in an insurance company. I obviously thought office work looks like there's the only thing open to me, and I just applied for jobs everywhere, civil service and all the usual places, and this one was the first one that came up, so I took it.
Well, we work on a rota system. In the morning, you would be working at the visual display units. In the afternoon, you would be working on telephone and counter, or vice versa. When you're working at the computer terminals, you would draft policies or endorsements. You would endorse policies, or you would convert paper records into being held on the computer. When you're on telephone and counter, it simply entails answering inquiries on the telephone or going to deal with customers at the counter.
Hello, personal department.
Kitty, could you hold on just a second, please? More than likely, they just want to see what they're covered for. Am I covered if my pipe bursts and the chimney blows down in a storm, that sort of thing? And they want to check their sums insured to make sure they're adequate, and want us to increase them, or to add on items of jewellery to their all risk section and that sort of thing. She just ran on its way out to you. Yes. All right. Thank you. Bye.
Hello, personal department. Did you receive this through the post this morning, addressed to yourself? Right. By your staff department. Right, could you hold the line, please? Okay. About a year ago, everything was held on paper record. You took out the file and looked it up on the file. Now, we're sort of at a halfway stage between using the files and using the computer. Mostly you find that the computer will give you the information you require, unless you need to go back, say, 6 months to a year. Hello? Actually, your contents are insured for £4,625 at the minute. Yes, 6,000. All right, well, we'll get that done for you, and an endorsement will be sent out in due course. Okay, thanks now, bye-bye.
At first, it seems, when I first came in, I says, I'm never going to learn all this. You know, the policy cover and everything. But it's just something you pick up as you go along and you learn. I mean, still some things that I don't know, which you have to refer to the manual or refer to the head of department, but there's always someone there to keep you right.
So what qualities do you need to do this quite complex work?
Well, you need to be able to talk to the public, and you need to be able to cope with them as well. Sometimes you do get very obstreperous people, you have to be able to know how to cope with them. You also need a lot of patience, because sometimes the phones just ring non-stop, and you need to be able to, sort of say to yourself, right, just keep on going, it'll end soon. Okay, thank you now, bye-bye.
A fair degree of intelligence, I would say. I wouldn't say you need to be really super duper brilliant, but you would need to be fairly intelligent, say, to pick up most of the things. General knowledge of mathematics, not all this geometry, trigonometry stuff which I learned and failed miserably. It's just straightforward and multiplying. And once you've learned the rates, it's all plain sailing, really. That would be all really you'd need. Of course, you're going to have to be able to write legibly and that sort of thing, for the and for the manual endorsements and that sort of thing. Obviously, the public are going to have to be able to read what you write down.
Yes, you do have to make sure that you get things right. You find that the public, they really don't know how to fill in the forms, which is quite all right, because if I'm filling in forms for other types of things, I wouldn't know.
The girls in the office have got used to the computer. The keyboard is just like a typewriter. Computers are just part of the job. part of a job that Shirley obviously enjoys.
Mainly, I like the people I work with, which I think is a great help. I like to work with people, and you do have a lot of contact with the public working in this particular one. I just enjoy the work. It's not particularly difficult, but yet there's always a bit of a challenge, you know, somewhere along the line. It's not, of course it has its tedious bits like everything else, but generally there's always something you can get your teeth into.
So there are many large offices often doing complicated work. And they're probably not the quiet and peaceful places you might have imagined. But there can be many advantages to this sort of work. If you think you have a pleasant manner, if you think you're careful and precise, if you think you're a good organizer, then office work might be the job for you.
Police department, please.